Hey, it's Croc 36 for Access Knowledge Board Game Allied Headquarters. And I just want to remind you today is National Pie Day. Now, you take a look at this pie to the right, it's blueberry, and you'll notice a little bit of a soupy thing right here. Um, and if you bake a pie, let it cool, because most pie, not unlike other things like cookies, where it wants to be hot, pies really are best served cold. And what you want to do is, I'm not a baker, but I'm an expert eater of pies. And what you want to do is actually let it cool, take one piece out, let it cool, drain the liquid. No, let it cool again, drain excess liquid, let it cool again, and you'll have firm pie pieces. A good pie is one that you can hold in your hand, is what I say. So my wife is laughing at me. What are you doing? What are you doing? Okay. So, anyways, so you want to get it out, let it cool, cut one piece, let some of that drain, and then I would at this point in time actually take that liquid out and then let it cool again, and it'll solidify. It should be like a little invention where you actually stick a triangle thing right here, and then it'll just absorb and solidify. All right. Anyways, enough of Pi Day. My friend, I'm gonna call him a friend. I've never met him, and I intend to this next year, hopefully, to meet a guy named Barney. And Barney is a guy. He's Beely, I think, on the EXP um, AAA site, and amongst the uh, captain's game, I think he's called Beely. So he's an American, and I've talked to him a couple times, and I mean, interacted with him mostly through chat. But he did a review. There's his allies, Barney, right here. So, and he does this thing where he actually goes on quite a adventure of recording the game, which is just amazing. Um, so he asked for some feedback, and I gave it to him. So right here is the site. In order to see the game, you'd have to go to the game map version 2.97 on the HD, UHD, EXP. Let's see, EXP right here, EXP. And then this is the forum thread over at AAA. And there we go. And I want to just read this conclusion. A really tough first game for Crockett, but he persevered through adversity and got the win. Unfortunately, Victory had to withdraw for reasons unknown around 1943 to 44. Yeah, the game went till 49, I believe, 20 rounds. I expected him back, and by the time Crockett asked for one of us to switch to help him, we were too close to the end game. I did try and help him as much as possible, and he did, as I could, with suggestions and explanation of what to look for from special units he wasn't familiar with. Regardless, it's still a very enjoyable game, and Panzer and I were impressed with Crockett's, to us, somewhat unorthodox playstyle. He definitely wasn't risk averse. A few points. The Carillion knot proved harder to untie than Panzer and I originally thought. This tied up a lot of German resources and provided the Soviet Union with additional income for half the game. The early naval loss, or more correctly, Pyrrhic victory for Japan off Singapore, really slowed Japan's expansion in the Pacific. The loss of two CBs was significant. The Soviet bombers would have several key wins, but the most impactful was the sinking of the Axis naval blocker in the Med, which would lead to the destruction of the large Axis fleet stationed in 97. The Allied attack on true neutrals was unexpected. I originally thought it was a mistake, but it would open up Spain as a major base of operations, as well as provide access to early, easy, neutral IPC wins for the Allies, primarily in South America and Middle East, which helped to push the Allies to the economic total needed for victory. There are several major battles that's that some went the Axis way and the others Allies, which is to be expected. Crockett also made great use of air power, especially bombers. I kept wondering, where did they all come from? At any rate, congratulations to Crockett again on the victory. Here's the game save. and Merry Christmas. Okay, so here's the information if you want it. I think it's pretty cool stuff. And the captain himself responds and congratulates me. Um, so then, but this is a fantastic game report. Uh, if you haven't seen his game reports, they are a bit of a work of art, really. Piece of literature in the Access Knowledge world. Let's see. Let's go to game thread. Game report. Game report starts here. Here it is. So I'm going to start. I don't know how far I'm going to get, uh, but there we go. This is a mid game start, and this is the situation mid game. Late 44. I think he's counting every turn as 6 months. So 1940. If it's 44, then it's 8 turns in, maybe. Uh, all right, here we go. I originally played Russia, Anzac, and France, and Victory first played with the others. Um, so my first game, there is a bit of a trick to making sure that you've got to be able to put the this version right here. No, I'm sorry, the 2.297, which you find on GitHub, I believe, into your map folder. So it is a little tricky, and I believe I have a video about it, but I could make another one. It's the Global 1940 expansion, and I was very confused. All right, so the Kriegsmarine would launch the Graf Zeppelin in early 1940, and they would sink the Royal Navy in 110 and 106. A damaged Bismarck would withdraw from 111 to 112. The Wehrmacht would conquer all of France as well as attritioning Yugoslavia and then bouncing to Romania. The Soviets would commission all their commissars and promote an elite infantry and save a significant amount of their income. The Red Army would have a fairly strong presence in East Poland, as well as strengthening secondary lines of defense in Bryansk and Belarus. Novgorod would retain a sizable infantry presence. This is the beginning of the Karelian Knot. Japan would build a factory in Shantung as well as deploy 2 engineers to Tokyo. Um, the IJN would concentrate in 36 with this carrier group left in 6. The USA destroys the facilities in Philippines and buys 2 CVs and 2 DDs. Philippines would be fortified. China takes Yunnan back and concentrates in Shenxi with their fighter. UK moves the London factory underground and blows up the Gibraltar harbor. Huh, I did not know that. They sink the Italian ships in 96 and 97. So we did do Taranto. Italy builds a destroyer and an LCV. I believe that is a Higgins boat. They sink the remaining UK ships in 97 and take Yugoslavia to Tunisia. The Ethiopian army moves to Somaliland. Anzac produces a submarine, that's me, and takes control of Java and the Dutch New Guinea. Their cruiser and DD moved to harbor in New South Wales. France disperses its Med fleets 94, 92, and 94. I believe that's a blocker move. Um, the Morocco infantry reinforces Algeria to face off the Italians in Tunis. I think I have this up. Let me see if it's so this is the map situation. I think turn 1, quite a bit of investment by the Americans over here. Uh, and then a sizable Navy with aircraft carriers and subs. This looks in danger. And then this isn't nearly as much as I thought it was. He had so little on the front that I thought maybe um, I might be able to. I don't know what I was thinking. I wouldn't do that right now. Um, hmm, 7, 9, 11. Where's the planes? Oh, the planes are over here. Oh, okay. All right. And then here, 2. I'm not sure what the deal is there. Okay. And then it's been a while, more than almost a year or something like that. This is a disposition of troops, strong presence in Hawaii, a lot of Air Force in Wake. Oops. And 36, like you said. Oh, I think maybe he built on this. This is a literal fortification. It's not like I'm going to send troops there. It's a all right, and there is my little navy. All right, let's go back to the report. Oh, let's take a look at Southeast Asia. Activates Persia. Put a Navy of the Air Force there. All right, let's keep going. Germany would launch another CVN, 4 U-boats, with the rest of their income going to the Wehrmacht. Okay, that is a serious investment. Navy. Wow. And undefended Gibraltar would be taken, and the damaged hood would be sunk off Iceland, of course, by a single U-boat with bomber support. Operation Marita would be activated, and Greece would fall. First Panzer would form in Berlin, and the new CB would launch off Toulon with help, along with a ME 109. T. The majority of the Kriegsmarine have already sailed to 91 off Gibraltar. Wow, that is a push, med push. Russia would have a mixed build of 4 tanks, elite, engineer, para, and 2 bombers. I did not know what to do with that engineer. I got suggestions, obviously. They would begin to implement the Crockett's Karelian knot, heavily reinforcing Novgorod and Karelia. While the Axis were originally skeptical of the Soviet strategy, it has proved problematic throughout the game as the Reich has been unable to fully untie it. Far East forces concentrated on the Manchurian front. Nippon would construct another factory for mainland China along with the harbor in Guangxi. Undefended transports bordering Shanxi would be territories bordering Shanxi would be taken, and a huge attack by the IJN would take united force. Huichao would also be occupied by a large number of army units. USA launches USS Iowa and 3 DDs in the Atlantic, as well as fortifying the Aleutians. Like I said, that's a fortification. China withdraws its entire army to Kansu to save a single infantry in Sichuan. Okay. Except a single infantry in Sichuan. Britain builds a factory in Egypt and heavily reinforces the RAF. And Sumatra is fortified. The pro-Axis neutrals in Iraq are exterminated. Italy builds a paratrooper, another Higgins boat, and 3 infantry. Algeria is conquered and a large force moved to Romania. Anzac builds a CV and an aircraft carrier and a sub. They are custodians of the Celebes. France moves their DD, their destroyer, in 81 to the MAD 95. They now have a DD in 94, 95, and a cruiser in 92. That is definitely a blocking move. The London fighter flies to French West Africa. All right, let's take a look and see if we can see what we can see. I will go down to the end of the turn. This should be an updated map. Okay. All right, French. This is French stuff. And this is the German build. And this is significant. I don't know what it means. I think it's only applicable to C. Yeah. And then here's the Navy. And here's the Air Force. Control of Gibraltar. That's a tough start. There's the American Navy. French fighter. French units. Oh, there's some. I don't know whether they got out of Dodge or they're coming around the horn. Does not look like a serious threat to Egypt, and the Middle East is being strengthened. Transports? No transports. They're all walking. Battleship still in 39. Took over Sumatra. The Allies have every one of the money islands. Was that a mistake? Not at war yet. I believe in this game, he can build a factory somewhere in China, like not coastal. Um, I think he builds it in Hunan. So yeah, pretty robust ground force. And then there's the Russians, where they should be, in my opinion. That's the LCV I'm talking about, the Higgins boat. And still blocked. Strong Navy, but there's transports. And there's Anzac posting up for action. All right. I'm going to go here, jump down to here. Let's go back to the read. Um, the Reich starts out early 41, sending the Luftwaffe to sink the French ships along with U-boat support. Forces have occupied Gibraltar, would make an amphibious attack on West Africa and destroy the French fighter there. Now, as much as that is a target of opportunity, I would really say that's quite a mistake. I mean, it's like I said, it's an easy win here, but you've got things to do, and if you're not doing them, the guy you're facing is doing what he should be doing. Army Group Center forms in Slovakia, and U-boats continue to raid England and Canada. The Soviets invest heavily in infantry and a tank general, I believe. They continue to concentrate in Karelia and Novgorod. They withdraw from the East European territories. Nippon continues their push into China. U.S. sees another large Navy build. Both Pacific and Atlantic fleets are formidable. China attempts a counterattack, minor, in Suyuan. That fails. They hold their last three western provinces and are concentrated in Kansu. UK invests heavily in paratroopers and eliminates the Italian army in Somalia. Mussolini desired upstage Hitler, orders an attack on the Soviet Union. Mussolini, in his desire to upstage Hitler, orders an attack on the Soviet Union. They would take an undefended Bessarabia and launch a successful amphibious attack against the lightly defended Caucasus. Okay, that will not happen again, by the way. North Africa would be taken for an important objective. Anzac goes with the naval and air bill. They disperse their ships throughout the Southwest Pacific. What's left of the French armed forces chill with the British. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, these are the fortifications I'm talking about. And here is I wouldn't call it a subnet, obviously, but it's they're on patrol, they're in a net form. They are everywhere. I will say that each one of these things, including this transport and these ships, every one of these ships, if you were to attack here, it would require what? 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 units to feel comfortable about a one round one shot. 2, 3 for a one shot there, one here. I think they could make it 1, 2, 3, 4 airplanes here could hit this, but again, you need 2 or 3 to be confident of a one shot. You do not want to go multiple rounds, which is what a destroyer here, but probably a destroyer plus another unit. So already we're talking about more locations than he has sea units for, or even air units. And if those air units went there, they would be far afield. They wouldn't be where he wants them. He wants them, I'm assuming, to take Calcutta, to take the rest of India, and obviously right now to defend against the Russians, although the Russians have backed off. All right, let's see what happens. War will be declared. War is declared. So we are on a war footing all around. I don't know if I looked at Europe. That is a good fleet right there. I like the destroyer purchases. See, this is out of position. This was not worth it, I don't think, in my opinion. There's the Novgorod. Um, so instead of falling back, pushed into Novgorod with, and then some of these units can move too. It's kind of tricky. All right, let's move on. I'll move down to round 4 and go to the read. Okay. Germany launches Barbarossa. They would take undefended Soviet territories in the east as well as whatever that is to take the Ukraine and Rostov. A British destroyer that deployed in 109 would be sunk. Fallschirmjäger. Fallschirmjäger. A small force continues to advance to Central Africa, and the Kriegsmarine moves into the Med. Army Group Center moves to West Ukraine, and East Poland has a heavy Wehrmacht and Waffen concentration. Russia goes with an all-infantry build. They will take back Rostov, Ukraine, Baltic states, and move into Finland. Strategic bombers would kill the Italian units in the Caucasus. The Red Army's largest force is in Novgorod. The Far East remains as a counter to Japan. Japan suffers a major defeat in Kansu. This will delay the takeover of China until early 42. They begin to build a air transport fleet. The Americans now at war against Germany, Italy, use a bomber DD, bomber destroyer combo to hunt U-boats in the North Atlantic, and Brazil is activated. China awaits waits for the inevitable. UK successfully counters the German Central African force. An undefended Holland is taken over by a paratrooper, and they continue, UK, to suffer heavy convoy damage. Italy attacks Caucasus and Alexandria, killing the Brits and the Anzac troops there. They begin to reinforce North Africa via air transport. Anzac continues to build its navy, and they remain dispersed in single sea zones. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to pause to blow my nose. I'm sick, homesick from work, actually. All right, let's go to the map. End of round 4. Let's take a look at those Anzac. I'm awfully proud, enthusiastic about my Anzac. Now, this is a bunch of airplanes, by the way, and a fortification. So not an easy nut to crack. And eventually he has like a ton of um, right there. He's got 3 aircraft, 4 infantry. You can read it in the bottom toolbar. 4 for fortification, plus, of course, the naval base and the air base. So powerful units. But Victory has done his job, and he has filled up the sea. This is there's no ability to can open over here, at least with the current situation. And he's filled up the ocean with lots and lots of blockers, caging in the IJN. I have to say that I was a little surprised that there wasn't a move on the money islands this turn. Or this is a good amount of money. I do not know the money situation. It is different in this game. You'll notice that this is a 2 here. This is a 1. Those are not jokes. Those are victory as well as income, additional income, I think. 3 for Midway, 2 for Wake. So they try to make these a little more valuable. This, like I said, these numbers here are not. All right, so this is the Pacific, and I'm not really in fault at this point in time in the Pacific. Um, Japan is trying to conquer all of China. I think there's a reason for that. I think there's a bonus that's given out for conquering all of China, and he works hard to maintain China the whole game, and is until I think the very end very successful at it too. By the way, so this is a commissar, I believe, and he is marching out to give these guys sort of morale support. No, this I think that's the way it is. And then here, these are army groups. The first, if you look up here, the first in Finland is composed of that, the first corps. The second corps is composed of that, and they have elevated dice. So I do move back in this one, and because these can sometimes jump pretty unpredictably. And I was always nervous that they could jump beyond me. Paratroopers cannot jump into capitals, by the way. And right here, see this war he's playing where he can take units over the Black Sea. So really annoying, but quite effective for him, of course. This is not a no-joke move. Just to let you know, I believe this is a sort of an opportunity cost that it makes the, obviously he's in a very difficult situation with the North Atlantic being dominated by subs as well as a large navy that's a 92. There is no um, naval base here because it's been destroyed, and I think probably this is probably a pretty standard move. I'm assuming because he destroyed that rather fast after that navy was built. Turn 1, he destroyed Gibraltar that first turn. So I'm assuming this is somewhat of a standard move. The Americans over here, are they stronger? They don't seem stronger for some reason. Oh, there they are. There they are. That's a navy. That's a navy. Okay, let's keep going. I'll move down, and then I'll go back to the read. All right. 42. The Reich invests heavily in the Wehrmacht with large infantry build. Rostov is taken with combined sea and air attack. Army Group Center joins the East Poland force in Belarus. The Luftwaffe reinforces Norway. And in the USSR, Stalin has ordered conscripts to take place. That's a large purchase. Like you get a massive deal. I think you get like 20 units or something like that. But the fighting in Rostov and Caucasus continue. The Red Air Force takes heavy losses while doing no damage in the latter. That's right. The Novgorod army moves to Karelia. Despite the failure of the IJN Japan to conquer all of China, they remain on schedule and declare war against the Western Allies. They would attack the Philippines, Singapore, Hong Kong, Borneo, and finish off the Chinese. All attacks would succeed. The Americans, enraged by the sneak attack, activate the National Guard. In Europe, they would bomb the Southern France factory as well as take the undefended Gibraltar back for the British. In the Pacific, they would sink an escort, blocking the route to Sea Zone 6. Chinese have a new master. Britain finishes off the last German infantry in Central Africa and makes a small counterattack against Alexandria. They construct an airfield in Cairo. Blockade damage begins to subside. Anzac would strike the IJN off of Singapore with subs and fighters. Despite destruction of the entire attacking force, they would do significant damage, sinking both CVs and shooting down all the Japanese air. This would have a strong impact on future Pacific naval operations. That was a huge battle. And, I'm not exactly sure what that is. Oh, he pasted them together. Gotcha. Okay. That is a strong secondary navy with 6 transports. There it is, Karelian knot. Okay, let's go off this. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so then I'll show you in a minute. Oh, that's it. Let me go to the map. So there's what we were just seeing. 6 transports fully ready to be loaded. Destroyers able to shoot at 109. This is a fairly easy thing to counter if you have some destroyer in 106 and some fighters in 109. Every round before the end of your round, you can make sure that that's free. I prefer to do it with the Americans, though. Schultz is doing it to me right now, and that's how I'm solving the problem. And I'm trying to make sure I keep not just Karelia, not just Finland, but also Novgorod. So, a diversion to Novgorod actually delays your march on Moscow, which means that you get another round of purchasing. So it was very hard for me to tell how many he had in here. And the other thing that was really hard was how many he could make move to. There are units here, even ground units, even infantry that can move to. So it was definitely a learning experience. And that is not the same. I don't think that's the same. That might be a difference. Let me go check. He said there was a disaster in the Caucasus. Look to your right. I bring the Air Force. He defends with 3. I miss all 4. That is me right there, buddy. And he hits 2 of my fighters. Retreats. So he loses nothing, and I lose 2 fighters. Same thing just happened to me in the game with Simon. Just terrible, but not the luckiest guy in the world. Okay, let's go down here again. Okay, so uh, strong forces in the Middle East. Egypt has never been in danger, but there is a robust Italian force that stretches all the way to Morocco and protected by a huge, huge. Look at this. I mean, if he could do this and crush Russia, that would tell you something. But I don't think he's doing as well in Russia as he'd like. But it is powerful. But America has paid attention. There's a strong force. All right, let's see what happens. It's happening over here. He took Kansu, and there's the factory I was talking about, Quichao. That is a pain in the butt, let me tell you. Without that thing there, he would have been chased out of there a lot faster. Okay, so let's take a look at the situation now. So he did do combat, and we have more. Let me know if you need it. Okay, thanks. Okay. I just asked for a multivitamin and zinc. If you get sick, zinc. If there's people around you that are sick, zinc. It is so crucial. This I do not like. Okay, this is why Hawaii is not the answer. It is just not the answer to the situation. It's just so easy to block. C-Zone 7 is really the answer. And that this is the answer too. I did move this out here. I formed an army. I believe you need a commissar, an artillery, and 2 infantry. And that gives you extra dice. And he is weak right now, right here, and he's obviously conceding it. So, and then here looks terrible for Novosibirsk, Kazakhstan. You know, definitely I felt pinched. All right, let's take a look at the read. All right, so Germany begins to move their minor factories underground due to American strategic bombing. They'll start constructing the Atlantic Wall. He's not kidding about that. That's not just infantry. That's like fortifications. Panzer Blitz into and back the undefended territories of Archangel, Smolensk, and Bryansk. Panzers Blitz into and back. An elite takes control of Novgorod. The Soviet Baltic cruiser is sunk. The Kriegsmarine joins the Regia Marina in 95. Norway is reinforced via LCV. The Har here, remains concentrated in Belarus. England is no longer being convoyed, but Cairo is. The communists begin mass tank production and begin to deploy guard infantry. Novgorod and Ukraine and Caucasus would all be taken. The Red Army is concentrated in Karelia and Moscow, with the Third Corps leading the Far East Army in Amur. Nippon rebuilds this destroyed naval base in the Philippines and is forced into infantry-only builds instead of armor as they start to replace their lost CVs from the Battle of Singapore. Oh, I wanted to take a look at that battle too. They take Dutch New Guinea, Celebes, and Java while continuing the skirmish with the Americans in 16. Air transports continue to reinforce Philippine Carolines. The Kansu army withdraws from the Soviet frontier to Quichao. Jehol and Yunnan have sizable forces to counter Amur and India. The Yanks commissioned the USS Missouri and add 3 more B-17s to the Army Corps. Army Air Corps. The Atlantic Fleet would move to the Med in 92 and conduct landings against Morocco and Algeria. Bombers would move to Gibraltar. The Pacific Fleet remains in Pearl Harbor. China is no more. UK builds an air base and naval base for Gibraltar. Large RAF units and an unescorted transport attack Tobruk. The towns are destroyed, but the RAF takes heavy losses. Italy takes Ukraine in a small battle. their navy remains in a defensive posture in 95. Anzac builds the Air Force. The fighting spirit of the Army is showcased when a single infantry attacks an elite Japanese division in Burma. Sadly for them, they are defeated while doing no damage. New Guinea is reinforced by air and sea. A small naval task force begins to take shape off of New South Wales. All right, let's take a look at the map there. The one I'm looking for is there's the convoying sub, and here is the fleet to fleet action. Oh, I thought he moved off that. Oh, this can't be. This must be it. Hold on a sec. He said they withdrew. Yeah. Here it is, 95. They're all in 95 right now. And there's the unescorted transport that took Tobruk. But the Italians must have killed it, I guess. Brave of them to do that. Huh. All right. No factories there yet. And nothing in the south. Africa didn't really play as big a role after the defeat of the expeditionary force that landed in French West Africa was defeated. Okay, let's see what the Navy on the East Coast looks like. Okay, fine. Okay, there's the Missouri, and there's 3 bombers. There's a sub, and there's this is a wolf pack, I think. Yeah, escort. There's an escort that costs 6. This is the Atlantic Wall fortifications right here. 1, 2, 3. There's another one right there. There's the Higgins boats. And there is the Carolean knot. And these annoying things can jump over the ocean and grab this, as well as this Higgins boat. All right, let's take a look at. Okay, so now we have units all over guarding those territories as well as still threatening. And still in Hawaii. This fleet is not as big. Two carriers. It's a bit of a lost opportunity, I think, here. When the Anzac had just taken out that fleet. All right, let me go up and see if I can see that Anzac battle. I think it was last turn. Yeah, battle in 37 right here. Here's the battle. I'm coming in with 4 airplanes and 2 subs, and it's crucial to casualties. He has this force right here. This is on the right side. Significant force. Look at this. And we roll, and I get 1 for the sub and 3 for the fighters. So four hits. Now the Japanese roll terribly. So that was very lucky for me. And he has to take 4 casualties. Now he takes 2 subs. I take 2 subs. And he takes 2. He damages a carrier and a destroyer and 2 fighters. These are all lost. So interesting choice there. Now I'd roll again for the fighters, and I roll 3 out of 4 hits. Now that is just plain lucky. He does get what he needs to kill me, but I mean, amazing. I lose 4 airplanes, and he has to lose carriers. And he wins with a damaged battleship, and 2 transports left. So that was a significant battle. All right, let's go to the next one. In 43, the Germans would take Novgorod, but a single brave infantry in Finland would defeat an attack by a tactical, elite, and an infantry. Undefended East Front territories would once again be taken. Southern France would see heavy reinforcement. The USSR builds a minor factory in Finland and moves the Karelian army there. Stalin orders an attack on Japan all along its border. Manchuria and Korea fall, as well as Qinghai. The Kansu and Sinkiang attack would fail. Additional battles continue in Europe, with Rostov and Novgorod back under Soviet control. The first tank and third ground units moved to Kazakhstan, and the air units will land there. After the attack, Japan switches to heavy army builds, including Total War tanks and another factory in China. A DD lands destroyer lands and infantry in Kamchatka, and mobile units with small air support would take Qinghai. In close battle, a fortified Sumatra would fall, giving Japan the Dutch East Indies bonus. The largest combat would take place in Manchukuo, where Japan would send all available air, land units in Johor, as well as an amphibious attack, being supported by naval units in the Philippines. While victory was expected, it exceeded expectations and was a smashing success. Our Americans build a harbor on Wake, and the Pacific Fleet would move there. The Med Fleet moves to 94, and Tunisia would be taken. The entire American North African Army would be stationed there. 11 transports in the fleet and a heavy combination of Marines and artillery in Tunisia, along with 6 bombers in Gibraltar and the USS Missouri, now within supporting ranges, while the Italians face a significant threat. UK forces in Egypt and Gibraltar contribute to the danger. China's brief mode of liberation was short-lived, and they are back under the Japanese boot. Britain begins total war fighter builds. They land in Greece and fail to liberate Qinghai due to unexpected stiff resistance from the Japanese. Units are sent to Kazakhstan to support the Soviet army there. The Egyptian forces move to the Middle East to prevent a possible suicide attack by Italy from Alexandria that would activate the conditions. Okay. Units are sent to Kazakhstan to support the Soviet Union. The Egyptian forces moved to the Middle East to prevent a possible suicide attack by Italy from Alexandria that would activate the conditions for a German takeover of Italy. So there is a rule that the Germans can take over when there's no more Italians left in North Africa. Italy takes Egypt and Greece and lands paratrooper unopposed in Caucasus. The Regia Marina moves to 99 and reinforces the newly taken Greece. Anzac would go with a max sub-build and conduct a successful combat against Dutch New Guinea. Sorry. All right, let's see what we have here. This is the one where Egypt has actually been taken over. There we go. And again, they're trying to eliminate all these Italian forces so they can take it out. Okay, some strong moves and strong staring down the barrel of a gun here. Oh, here it is. Significant movement around Egypt. If we look at last turn, um, this is what Egypt looked like. They're all gone. They're all gone. I think they attacked Greece, obviously, but significant movement in that area. 3 tanks. And the Atlantic Wall is no joke, and still subs. 5 more transports. Wow. That is a lot of transports. Let's look at so there is the Karelian knot. And he is trying to reinforce, maybe. I don't know. He seemed to be content with Belarus for a long time. So I began to reinforce here so I could do a move and eventually possibly move on Turkey as well as skirmish over China. This defeat was ridiculous. To remember that. On the right side, you have 2, 5, 7, 8, 12. 12 and 4 is 16, 25, 25 units versus 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So AA guns, I do get a hit. Better than nothing. And then he gets 3 for bombardments. And look at those hits. I mean, 15 hits. And I get 6. So obviously this is way low. One, one, two, three. That should have been one hit. 2, 3, 4, 5. I should get 5 hits right here. I got 3. And then this is one above. So I guess it's 2 hits down. It would have been nice to get those extra 2 hits. He continues on, and I get 3 out of 4. What's this? Okay, so oh, these are threes, so maybe one extra hit. So maybe one less hit than I should have got. The interesting thing is that, well, whatever. Okay, so let's go down to the bottom. Let's take a look at Anzac in a rebuilding phase after. And I've already got a fairly good navy built up again. But he now has the money islands and is convoying Calcutta and is at the gates of Calcutta and has China. So it's up to Russia and England. All right, let's go to the next report. And I think I'll call it after that. The Reich and the Soviets go toe to toe in early 45 in Scandinavia. Um, I'll get us caught up after I finish the trout report. This one's still going. A month has gone by. I'll try to start work on some other earlier action. It's been a tough slog, and the war is far from decided in late 45. Crockett has taken command of the Allied forces. It is believed that Otto Skorenzy or the Gestapo have abducted victory first. Rumor has it that the British commandos are working on a rescue. Hopefully, it will succeed. This is a quick shot of the. Okay, so right there, C Zone 7. You're gonna see boats everywhere now. Very dynamic situation is going to occur. I'll show you in a bit. Updates will coming soon. Um, he misunderstands the LL rules, Lend Lease rules. I originally told him SSR could get bombers, but only UK can. Um, there's pictures of the situation, but I'll show you in a minute. And there's the economic total. Far left with the. Let's try again. Novgorod would fall, but only temporarily, as the Karelian army would successfully counterattack. It would still provide the Reich with valuable IPCs. British naval forces would suffer a heavy defeat in 93 off Cairo. Southern Italy would be heavily reinforced. The um, Kriegsmarine would move to 97. Okay, so let's take a look at the next. Okay, so here we go. All right. So here we go. So this is the East Coast, and not much of an investment when I took over. Okay, let's see about. I don't know how I suffered that loss. Oh, there we go. Oh, wait, did he note this? Oh, wow. Is this right? No, I don't remember him mentioning this. Okay, let's go back. One rounds. There we go. Let me just check. Uh, I know there was a delay here. Oh, this one does look like it's, so I think there's a bit of a gap here. Um, let's see. Trying to look for that naval defeat in 97. That was a big moment. And I was in the defense. All right, let's take a look at that. All right, I think I'm gonna go to the next one. So you see I take over here, and I got definitely a little bold. I pulled the trigger on the 97 attack. I believe there's a blocker right here. Maybe not. Here it is. There's a blocker here and here, and the Soviet bombers come down and wipe out any protection these units have. Believe it or not, this blocker is Italian escorts, and I was able to bring the Soviet bombers down. So a good a good turn. So that's where it started off. Pretty dynamic situation here. Lots of units, but blockers and scramblers. And this is how he ends it up. And he is, look at this, he is jacked. He's ready for a fight. But then the Soviets come down, knock that escort out, and then the Americans move in to 97, as well as Greece, as well as Yugoslavia. Just trying to take out the destroyer there. All right. So then let's take a look. I think China is, let's take a look over here. I did separate my Navy. I don't remember that. No, no, I did not go to seven. No, I did not go to seven. I brought my Navy down to Dutch New Guinea. Oh, the Japanese are here. They own the Money Islands. They're convoying. Their ships are protected, snuggle up close in 36, but also a huge fleet off of six. So a very dynamic situation. Looking more desperate. This is where I had to land all the airplanes that were attacking. and then I was able to take out the Italian Navy. So the Navy situation has changed radically from strong Navy to I'm about to rule the seas. Transports there. I've got my CVs there for a quick invasion, and we own all of Scandinavia, which is making huge money, and he's stuck in Belarus. So again, if we later on, I give a description of the pizza dough strategy, and we're pulling him in this direction. Mad amount of resources right here. There is, you know, with this amount of resources right here in turn 8, how could how could Germany think about approaching Moscow? And this is obviously a huge distraction. Higgins boats there, plus planes to hit. And we've got the air paratroopers, and we've got 3 transports dropping here to draw resources this way as well. So, and then right now it looks like although he has fortifications, not in southern France, by the way. Um, these units got past the Atlantic Wall. All right, let's. I'm sure he fights back, and this is the way this turn ends. Let's take a look at the South Pacific. Um, okay, there we go. We have Anzac, Anzac sub, Anzac transport. All right, that's it. Let's go one more round. One more round. Round 9. Okay, and let's read on. This is where he paused for a while. Major combat would occur in the Med with combined U-boats and Luftwaffe attacks taking place. Novgorod would fall, but only temporarily. Okay, here it is. The Soviets go on a large tank buy. It would be corrected to a total war buy, and the combat would take place all along the European front. The most significant battles seeing them take Novgorod and the Karelian army led by the First Corps taking Norway. Here it is. The 2 bombers would sink the Italian escort blocking 96. Yeah, this is one of the big turns, which would allow the Americans to engage the Kriegsmarine in 97. In Kazakhstan, the first tank would disperse and take Shanxi as well as Singhai, which would be taken in force with ground infantry. The Red Army would be heavily concentrated in Moscow as well as Scandinavia. Nippon had a mixed buy, most notably in upgrading the Tokyo factory to heavy industry and a total war naval fighter build. They would also continue to fortify Carolines and begin to build fortifications in the Celebes. The destroyers from Carolines and Sumatra would land 2 elites in an undefended Western Australia Northern Territory, and evacuated Korea would be taken and Shenxi in force. Amur and an undefended Kimkushka would fall as well, and the LCV attack would take Siberia with a tank. The Sumatra task force would move to 36, adjacent to Kwang Sea, and its naval base, Sea Zone 6, would see the IJN concentrate to counter the USN Navy off of Wake and its naval base. The American I put a naval base on Wake. The Americans would have a mixed buy and build first B-29s would roll off the assembly line. A major battle would take place in 97. The Kriegsmarine and their defending fighters would be obliterated. Yugoslavia and Greece would also fall to the Americans. The Pacific Fleet concentrates in 46 off to New Guinea. New construction launches from San Diego. China is able to place 2 infantry in Singhai thanks to the Soviet control. UK focuses on their army with pairs and LCVs builds included. Major combat would take place in 99. Regia Marina would be sunk, albeit with heavy losses to the RAF. Holland would see a major naval invasion with transports, LCVs, and Paris all taking part. Despite laying wall fortifications, the strong British force would be defeated with only moderate losses to the British. The entirety of the Indian army would move into Burma. Italy buys 4 subs and prepares for the German takeover. They can open Bryansk and move their air transports to West Germany and LCVs to northern Italy. Anzac builds a fighter and a transport. They would sink the destroyers in 55 and 56 with subs and fighters, losing 1 sub in the process. A carrier-led task force would move to 60 with a loaded transport. West Africa, West Australia, and Northern Territory would remain under Japanese control. The remaining 2 French infantry chill in Piccadilly Square. All right, I am going to leave that there. I'm a little nappy. Maybe the medicine I have is causing that, but that is a just a glimpse into what, well, maybe more than a glimpse, about half of what Barney has already done, and I'm going to read just the end of this thing. I will get back to this. Let me just take a screenshot of it. Yeah, no, I'm good. Let's go here. And this describes my strategy. And down here, I think there's quite a bit of ways to do some analysis here. It's crazy. All right. All right. What did I write? I wrote, okay, thanks again. It's been a while, but I'll try to remember in brief and then review in detail in a video. Gargantuan said to me once that the Allies' goal must be to slow down the Axis expansion. That should be with apostrophe. So I plan on making it more difficult for Japan to get to 60 in out of box or the equivalent here, and Europe to keep the Germans under 63 out of box or the equivalent here. There's a lot of money in this game, and I kept a careful eye, aiming to be well above the axis. Suppress growth and income. I accomplished this by demanding attention in 4 different directions in the ETO, European Theater of Operations, the North Atlantic, the Med, the West Eastern Front, and another area must call for orders and units. This makes battles smaller, and I have the assumption that I can lose battles better than the Axis because of the income disparity. The other area in the beginning was Karelia. Later, it was Spain. Later still, I was able to make Turkey and the Balkans a hotspot. Death by 1,000 cuts. I call it my pizza dough strategy. Ground units in particular can be rendered useless by a tempting easy victory that leaves them at the front line, but unable to reach a different front line. When I accomplished naval superiority, which I just did, I was able to make the front line almost any coastal territory at will. In the Pacific, I like to go high. On most occasions, I didn't seek a large Napoleonic victory, but skirmishes with reserves to make it so that no front was ever settled. Some fronts were hotter than others. Some were drips that could be easily defeated if maintained. One of my proverbs is for my enemy to win every battle but lose the war. The Rocky Balboa strategy. I offered many battles in Asia that made my enemy feel good but controlled the position of his aircraft, since the battle would be only easy if he brought them into the fight. The pizza dough strategy means 5 different areas remain warm, at least in PTO, Pacific Theater of Operations, China for sure, Calcutta, Southeast Asia with a focus on Malaya. Money Islands convoy demanding destroyers or destroyer blockers that fill the ocean and make for many skirmish battles that occupy air units that are needed everywhere. Flood the zone might be the football analogy. We all know that when we attack one unit, we want 3 units, preferably 2 ground and an air against the ground. Same for the sea. This is the strength and a weakness. This means that your smaller enemy can keep more of you occupied. An enemy willing to go 1v1 or 2v1 might gain an edge in a lucky turn, and the Allies have ground to give. Back to the 5 areas. China, particularly Central, Southeast Asia, Malaya more than Calcutta. This is the responsibility of the British. Money Islands, Philippines, Anzac is to harass. If possible, UKP can pop out a sub. Kill any lone destroyer at any cost. Hyperbole, but not much. See Zone 7, then 6, and 19. This is 100% the goal and responsibility of the U.S. Navy and Air Force. My strategy was generally a 75-25 until Japan is sub 40 out of box or the equivalent. This was never accomplished in this game. Russia threatening and eventually losing to the Japanese in Korea and Manchuria, resupply area after Japanese have passed through, also fight the expeditionary force from the west and buzz them with Lend-Lease area until destroyed. Caucasus became a battlefield that drained resources and went back and forth on account of the Higgins boats. I am sure I underused those. The super wacky subs that were unstoppable unless I took over Denmark caused me much angst. I'm glad they've rolled those back. The constant purchase of bombers is so important in any allied strategy. They can reach areas that your enemy does not expect. On several occasions, I treated them like cruise missiles that I knew would be destroyed in combat or easily killed upon landing. Those are some quick thoughts. Maybe this is all old hat, but maybe I have revealed something new. Thank you, Barney. Much appreciated. You're a gentleman and a scholar. I think I already did this. Okay, that's it for right now. I will try to get back to this, but I'm not sure I will today. But a lot of fun reviewing this game. And thank you again, Barney, for writing this up. It's very good. Crack it out.